If you are looking to live a simpler life, if you're looking to learn a lot more about minimalism, or if you just want to live with a little less chaos, then this video is for you. So one of you guys recently commented on a video of mine and said that I'm just tired of everything. I'm tired of the stuff. I'm tired of the organizational boxes. I am just tired of it all. And it really cut to the heart of why I am doing these videos, why I'm here, why I even talk about minimalism, simple living, decluttering, organization, and why I still think it's important for me to keep making this content. Because we're tired, because we live our lives on this rat race going round and round, and we're sick of it. That's why we're here. And we want to get off that train and we want to start something different. We want to live a different life. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my journey from decluttering to living a simpler life and how I got to live a life that has a lot less chaos. So when I first started this journey, I was definitely at an all-time low in my life. Things were just not going the way I thought they were going to. Life wasn't panning out the way I thought it should, and I was drowning in stuff. I had so many things I can't even describe. There wasn't like I was just collecting books or something like that. It was everything. Everything was everything, and more was just more. So when I first started decluttering, I was living in a home that had a lot of hidden clutter and bedrooms that were just full of clothes, and most of the time just had clothes all over the floor that were unworn from just trying things on over and over again. And my general satisfaction with how my life was going was at probably near a zero. I very much felt like I was just waiting. Like I was in the waiting room at a doctor's office and I was just waiting for my life to start. Something to happen to me in order for me to get back on track, to feel like my life was going in a direction I wanted. But instead of doing anything, I was just waiting for it. So when my life really started to take a turn for a direction I didn't want it to go to, when life starts to pan out and look like what you didn't expect, it's very hard for our brains to readjust and create new pictures of how our lives should be. The hardest thing for us to get over is the picture in our head of how our life is supposed to be. And if that's the case, then very much I was stuck in one way my life was supposed to go and it wasn't going that way, and how am I going to get that back? And my main solution was just filling the hole that was inside of me with things. And I had a lot of things. There was tons. So on top of that, I just also started making excuses. I spent way too much money. I bought way too many things, and I started making excuses for not being able to invite people over because my house was a mess. I didn't have to deal with it. I didn't have to have a lot of social interactions because my house was messy, and so I didn't have to. Those were my excuses for building up a lot of walls in my life and not inviting in the right kind of things that actually would have made me feel a lot better. So while I did start the decluttering process, once I watched the minimalist Netflix movie, I started decluttering, but honestly, it felt very defeating. I kept decluttering huge amounts of things, but I still had huge amounts of things. And then I also realized that I was bringing in a lot more things to fill in the spaces that I had just emptied. And so it was so defeating that many times I felt like giving up, and many times my husband would get mad at me because I was still spending a ton of money and still buying a bunch of things that I had just gotten rid of. So it wasn't until he really confronted that I needed to declutter but stop buying things, or just stop buying things altogether and just enjoy the things that I had. So I knew that I had too much. I knew I needed to declutter, but he very much recognized that I was just bringing in a bunch of more things and spending more money than I needed to, and that was a big shocker. Something I knew, but something that was hard to be confronted with. So right here in this moment, no matter where you are, if you are looking to live a simpler life, if you're looking to learn a lot more about minimalism and be a minimalist, or if you just want to live with a little less chaos, then this video is for you, and this can definitely help. So if you're new here, my name is Becky Truda, and this YouTube channel is based upon my life of decluttering, my life of minimalism, and how I hope to help anyone who wants to hear become more minimalistic, live a simpler life, and live with a lot less chaos. So that being said, if you are on a decluttering journey with us, throw a heart emoji down below. And once I started to really decide that I was going to change, once I had that big conversation with my husband, once I really started to dig a lot deeper into why I was decluttering and why I was so unhappy, I intentionally decided to change my mindset on things and change my mindset on how I was going to live my life and what I was really chasing for. So I would recommend to write down why you want to declutter. Why are you so unhappy, or at least why do you think you are right now? And while there are numerous things that I've learned from minimalism that I've talked about so many times in this channel, some of the videos are down below if you're interested, but something that has continued to impact me to this day and constantly keeps me back on track and reminds me of my goals of minimalism is that I started to ask myself one simple question: what is my freedom worth? And freedom in the Webster Dictionary goes like this: it's the absence of necessity, coercion, or constraint in choice or action. If I wanted freedom to do what I want, if I wanted to have no restraint or no one telling me what I had to do every day of my life, if I wanted to be able to travel, if I wanted the freedom to simply spend the weekend the way I wanted to with my family and not feel stressed about having to come home and clean, if I wanted to learn a new hobby or start a new career, then I had to gain back some of my freedom. One of the big issues for me was that I was so weighed down by the amount of clutter I had. I was so weighed down by the constraints of having to clean so many things and keep up with so many things that I never was able to find a hobby I really liked, to change my career, because all my money was going out and all the things that were coming in were taking up a lot of time and space in my life that I didn't have time and space for other things. If you really think about right now where you are in your life, are you fulfilled by what you're doing in your job? Are you fulfilled? Are you content? Are you happy with how you're spending your free time? If you're not, if you're in a place where you are not happy with those things, or you would rather do less of the things you don't want and more of the things than you do, then you have to take a very hard look at what is taking up your freedom. What are you wasting your money and time on that is not what you actually want to be doing? It's amazing that when I first started this journey, I had no hobby. I didn't have anything that I liked outside of just shopping. And I didn't feel like I could ever start a new career because I was too old or too far in life, and I didn't have time to learn anything new or learn a new skill. And how much just learning things in these 5 years, very slowly, don't worry, it doesn't have to be overnight. Learning and taking little steps over the past 5 years have led me to quitting my job, have led me to writing and gardening and learning new hobbies and growing a vegetable garden in my backyard, which is only semi-successful, but we're trying. But learning new skills and having time to sit and read things that I'm actually interested in, and spending time alone in my head and being able to learn new skills. 5 years of minimalism has freed up so much of my space that I'm able to chase after things that I never thought were possible. I'm able to figure out things that I never thought I could. So what I'm asking you is, are you craving freedom? And if you are, then start listening to that. Start listening to that thing inside of you that is telling you that something is wrong, something is not right with what you're doing. Maybe it's your job, maybe it's just not having any freedom, maybe it's your family, but start listening to that call that is coming from inside of you, because we are all listening way too much to our head and not to our heart. What is your heart telling you that you really want to do? And if you're feeling stuck, like maybe you don't have a dream, I was there too. I never had a dream either. But once you start clearing up a lot more space and you have freedom, you can actually start processing through what your dreams are and start being able to find what you want to do in your next step of life. So as you are decluttering, I want you to start looking at each thing and asking a very important question. Is this object helping me achieve freedom, or is this object holding me back from that freedom and stopping me from really finding the meaning that I'm looking for in life? Martin Luther King Jr. said, you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. And while obviously he wasn't talking about decluttering, But what I will say that is so impactful by that statement that you just need to take the first step is that the first step is often the hardest. You don't know what you're stepping into. You don't know where you're going. And often our brain is going to put up a stop sign, a warning sign that this might lead to something that we're uncertain about, and that could be scary. And so often our bodies might put in the fight or flight, might put in that we need to stop and reassess, that we need to slow down. But the more that you remind yourself that decluttering is actually giving me freedom, that you remind your brain that this is a good thing, that this is something that is going to help us, that is this something that is going to help us to grow, the more often that it's going to be easier to declutter even the things that are harder, like our sentimental items. So I want you to start with one foot in front of the other. You don't need to know what the end is going to bring. I don't care whether you want to be a minimalist or just live a less chaotic life. You don't have to have the full picture yet. You don't have to know exactly what your house is going to look and feel like at the end, but you do have to start making that first step. You do have to start telling yourself that this is a good thing, that this is going to be beneficial to you. And you have to start asking yourself, what is the cost of my freedom?